I'm John Wilson. Welcome to Owned and Operated. Twice a week, we talk about home service businesses. And if you're a home service entrepreneur, then this is going to be the show for you. We talk about our own business in residential plumbing, HVAC, and electric. And we also talk about business models that we just find interesting. Let's get into it. Hey, this episode is sponsored by Service Scalers. So Service Scalers is actually a brand that I've used personally with our companies for a little bit over a year now. They've helped us manage our digital advertising. Frankly, they did a lot better than our last agency. Leads went through the roof and cost per click went way down. Check out Service Scalers if you're a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical home service company. That's what they knock out of the park, and they did a great job for me. Welcome back to Owned and Operated. Today, I have Aizik Zimerman on. He's been a good friend of mine. We've been talking for a few years. He was interested in home service, and he ended up buying a plumbing company in Chicago. He's doing some really creative stuff inside the plumbing industry that I love, and I know that I draw a ton of inspiration of and from. Today's episode, we dive into recruitment. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Isaac's a good friend of mine. I think we met 2 years ago. You came out to Akron. You were like, hey, I think I want to do the home service thing. And then you did the rounds through a few other home service guys. And now you own a super fast growing plumbing company in Chicago called J Blanton's.
It's all thanks to you. You're the one that introduced me to this and
Yeah.
got me sucked in. And now here I am 2 years later. Look what you did to my life.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, that's awesome. So for the listener, when did you buy J Blanton's?
I bought the company 13 months ago now. So it's been dynamic
it's been
13
a full
months.
year. Okay.
It's been a full year now. Yep.
Yeah.
So background for everyone, we're J Blanton Plumbing. We are one of the largest residential plumbing companies in Chicago now. We do all types of residential plumbing, anything a homeowner needs, we got it covered. And we're, a premium plumbing company here. So it's just residential service and replacement, no construction, no commercial.
All winners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All winners.
Yeah. No construction, no commercial, just winners. Your story's been funny. Not really funny, but fun to follow. And I'm excited because obviously you and I talk pretty frequently. And I'm excited to be able to get you on camera stuck with me for a little while. and we're going to be able to dive into some stuff because you're coming from out of industry and you bring a very creative aspect to a lot of the stuff that you've done and that we talk about that I don't think anybody else that I know of is looking at stuff the way you're looking at in marketing, in recruitment. It's unique and I love it. I'm all for it. So I'm excited that we're going to dive deeper.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I like to say we are not a plumbing company. We're a direct-to-consumer sales and marketing business. And I have a lot of passion around sales, marketing, recruitment, just growth in general. So we've been super, super focused on growth. When I bought the business, 2022, we did 6 million right before I bought it. This year will end, right now we're at about 11 to 12 run rate. And the goal is to do 15 to 20 next year. So a lot of stuff has gone well in the last year to double in size, but it's been interesting. It's been dynamic.
Yeah. I think the first place I want to start is doubling in a year. Walk me through the big stuff. When I'm thinking about that, the big stuff starts with marketing and recruitment. That's where this starts off. So how are you, when you take over, I think when most people buy these plumbing companies, there's captive demand that's already not being achieved in some way. So maybe not maximize schedule, maybe not dispatching for profits, maybe they're not talking to their customers. So how much of your doubling in a year do you think was latent demand that was sitting inside that business versus, hey, we unlocked a bunch of stuff?
That's a really interesting point. I actually think we were a relatively run business in the scheme of plumbing. It's like being a tallest midget. We were relatively modernized already. I actually don't think we had that much pent up demand. I think we were doing decent with the leads we had.
Yeah.
I think the two biggest things, the biggest overarching thing that doubled us in the first year was honestly just being growth minded. Before I bought the business, it had gone from 3 to 6 million over the course of 2 or 3 years, which is pretty good still. But I think the old owner, he was an amazing salesman. He was an amazing technician, but I think very much ran it as a lifestyle business. So he sucked all of the money out of the business, all the excess money, and would try to save money in various ways to the benefit of his pocket on an individual day basis. So I think just completely not having that mentality, like we're bottom line minded, but we're insanely growth focused. We want to try and build a 200 million, $500 million, $1 billion company over a 20-year time frame. So also very ultra long term. And so I think making trade offs every day that don't maximize dollars in that day has helped a lot. And then just being willing to experiment and try new things. When I came in, we changed out all of our marketing agencies we were working with. I think upgrading those partners alone drove a lot of demand.
Hmm.
And then I think recruitment has been the biggest winner that we've had. We try to be the number one recruiter in our market. So we're in Chicago. I think Chicago is the best market for plumbing and for home services, honestly, for a whole bunch of reasons. And we try to treat our recruitment like recruiting all-star basketball players because our technicians are highly skilled, highly trained engineers who deserve to make a lot of money, can produce a lot of money for the company. And so I approach it in a very mathematical way where I look at someone's potential earnings to our business and I then back into what I think would be good pay for them. And it just happens to be that I think a company can have very healthy margins and pay more than the average operator is paying. And
Hmm.
so the Jeff Bezos quote, "Your margin is my opportunity." Like I look at what a lot of other companies are doing, in my mind, underpaying technicians and salesmen, and I'm able to offer more from a pay standpoint, which starts the conversation. And then I think just the ambitious culture we have helps close it. And what we're starting to find out is we have a snowball effect with recruitment. We keep getting new
Yeah.
people from companies, and those
Yep.
are really good companies, and they're bringing more people. I look
That
at our talent level today, and it's so much higher.
that's been like our last few months, and you've shaped the way I've looked at recruiting too over the past couple months. It's helped as we've designed our process, but like killers want to be around killers, right?
100%.
And when you can walk a candidate through a really well designed recruitment process and you can like get them up to close, which is hiring, and like they see because you walked them through this process that like, hey, when you're here, like you're not carrying the weight for your peers.
1,000%.
Like you are
1,000%.
around other killers. And honestly, you're the killer where you are. Your numbers are number three here. Like you're not the killer. Yeah.
100%.
And I think that has like our step, we've seen it. I know you've seen it, is like the step change has been real. And I also think just as you start doing it, you start to realize what's out there. And it
Mm,
it has reset my expectations for my own staff. Cause like I used to think this performance was really good. And then I interviewed 20 people who did 20%
1,000%.
better.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like what the heck? There's ballers out there.
I love
Yeah.
that you say that. Yeah, we feel the exact same way. It's actually crazy how I talk to a couple technicians almost every day that we're trying to hire.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable how much of them do care who's around them and what a big sales pitch that is. And
Yeah.
how many top people we talk to other companies that it is competitive and motivating for them to find out like your numbers are would not be the best here. And I actually have 5 other people that look like you. And then even internally, as we bring on these new people, I've heard from people that are inside of our company now saying, "Hey, I don't want to get left behind. I see the people that are coming in here and I know I have to ante up to be at that level." And I also love what you said about redefining expectations. Like what I thought was successful a year ago is
Yeah.
literally 180 now from
Yeah.
also seeing the potential of other people. So I look back at what I thought our strategy was, what I thought recruitment looked like, and everything is complete 180. I used to
Hmm.
think we were going to, and this is where your and I's path diverges a little bit because my introduction to this industry was you and Rich
Hmm.
Jordan, people who
Yep.
were rolling up these home service companies. I thought that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And our strategy within the span of 1 year has totally 180, where we've gone from wanting to purchase other brands, maybe even be multi trade. And now, a little bit uniquely, we're solely focused on residential plumbing and drain, trying to be single brand. We want to be like a racehorse of blinders. And that actually has helped with recruiting too. Like when I talk to technicians now, I say, look, a lot of them, the company they're at, plumbing is not the main focus. It's actually an afterthought, typically to HVAC.
Yep.
And so when I sit down with someone, I could say, look, I've got other killers here. I'm in this for 20 years and I only care about plumbing and drain. That's my only focus. And we want to be the best at that. And that pitch does resonate with technicians.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if we've talked about this. You and I may have talked about this, but obviously acquiring a bunch of companies is a part of how we got to where we are. But you don't get a lot of the muscle strength that we needed to get. So, like, we're learning stuff at the same time and at the same pace, maybe slightly faster because we have occasionally more resources and stuff. But like, then companies that are often a lot smaller than us because we never had to flex that muscle, right? We never had to strengthen it. So, like, marketing and recruitment has been a big learning over the past year as we've stopped focusing on deals completely and started focusing completely on organic because our path to 100 million is organic, like no deals. Like, we'll probably do little revenue tuck-ins for phone
Which
numbers,
is
but
hilarious to hear you say, because that is actually a big departure for you too.
totally. Like, I was shocked when I realized it like 6 to 9 months ago that this isn't gonna be how we get there. And I think for a bunch of reasons. One is like distraction. Honestly, like, so much of it's distraction. If I think about what happens in my day and like how I can optimize my day and how we can create the smoothest path to scale, if I'm buying a company, I don't know the quality of customer and it has to be less than
Mhm,
mine. Otherwise, they'd be bigger than me and they're not.
mhm,
So their customer quality is low. Their team quality is likely lower than mine because their recruiting
mhm,
process is way less stringent.
mhm.
Their marketing process is way less robust than mine. So are those customers even good to call? Is there anything I can drive value wise out of that list? So you end up with this like messy.
Think about all the effort you've put into
Totally.
your employees, your
Yep.
place, your processes. So I like to say the company that I would be interested in buying is 5 times bigger than me, costs more money than I ever could afford. And that's
Yeah.
what would excite me, because I look at everything at even our size or lower,
Totally.
and the distraction, like
Yep.
for us, let's say we're 12 million right now. To buy even a $4 million company, I can add one salesman who's in my
Yep.
brand, my processes, my people, and he can deliver
Yeah.
that whole company's sales.
Yeah.
So I look at some of the processes like I was trying to chase after 6 months ago, and I'm like, thank God I didn't buy that company, that $3
Oh,
million
totally.
company. Like, I've thought about this a lot, even for you. Like, your deal making is also like what got you started, though. Like, it's what, to your point, like built
Yeah.
the resources up to let you do
Yep.
what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I think it's stages and I don't regret any part of our journey. Like, I don't regret it
Right.
at all. We would not be here without acquisitions, but we are in some cases weaker than companies smaller than us because we never had to get good at generating lead flow. Now we're probably a lot better than them at generating lead flow, but that's because we have the resources to build a big old team around it and figure it
Right.
out. But like somebody that had to market their way up to my size is until about 4 months ago would have been way stronger at marketing than me because we didn't have to do that. We just used LSA, PPC, and it got us there
Yeah. Doing the same everyone else is doing in small increments.
pretty much. And same with recruitment. Like our biggest recruitment was buying a company. Hey, you want to recruit somebody? Here's 20 new people. But yeah, we don't see our path to 100 million as deals at all. We see it on our wall, plastered up there is, hey, we're going to get to 100 million. Here's how we're going to get there. And one of them is building meaningful moat through marketing and recruitment because that is how we see our path. And it's not like buying everybody in sight. It's we're going to do better than you at these two things. Well,
Selling yourself to customers and selling yourself to technicians. That's
yeah.
the game.
So like walk me through how you're thinking about recruitment. Like you sit down, you got your coffee, you got your new beard, you're recruited, man. Sell me on it. Like I'm $1.5 million plumber. And I'm like, maybe J Blanton's, maybe.
I'd tell you, you can make more money here and have more fun. So you have to look at your career. Where do you want to spend 20 years, the next 20 years? And I can promise you, I can deliver on each of the value propositions you look for as a salesman or a technician. Our pay is top 1%. We have lots of leads. We treat our people fairly. We're young and ambitious. My average employee is in their 30s. So if you want to be around the best and we want to have the best and we want people to be here for a super long time, we're investing in our space. We just 4X our physical office space. We're putting a CrossFit gym in the warehouse. So we're going to have the perks, pay, and stability that if you're a technician, that's where you want to work. Our recruitment spans basically two aspects. We do this stuff that everyone does, which is like be on Indeed and try to get people to apply to your posts. But the thing that we've done a lot of and that has had success, and we're continuing to tweak it, and it's a thing we believe in a lot, is we've tried to have an outbound sales methodology to recruiting. So having full-time recruiters on staff who go places where plumbers go. So let's take plumbing supply houses, go to the
Yep.
plumbing supply house, set up a table, give out chips, give out drinks, and raffle stuff off in exchange for contact information. We'll raffle TVs, we'll raffle pro presses, and just try to build a network of people that we can then invite to happy hours and just stay in contact with them. So we built a lot of really good relationships doing that. But what we've lucked out on, I think, the last month and a half, and I think is now creating a snowball, is again like the more better people you get, the more better
Yep.
people they bring. And the network
Yep.
effects start to become very strong. So the
Yeah.
best people we're getting now are people who are referred by our current technicians. And it's by far and away the best recruitment tool because the best salesmen, best technicians typically are happy where they are, and you have to dislodge them. And dislodging them is very much relationship based. Some of these recruitment, they basically have long sales cycles. Like some of our best people we've brought on have in some cases had a year-long sales cycles
Yeah.
to
Same.
dislodge them.
Same.
So you
Like are
plant the
the
seed in their head, you cultivate it, and wait for a moment to strike.
so how many interviews are you getting a week from each funnel?
So indeed, we purposely restrict the amount of interviews we do because it was getting overwhelming. We at this point have 3 1-hour slots 3 days a week. We try to do about 9 interviews a week right now. And through a combination of Indeed and through our proprietary sources. It's easier to get people through Indeed because those people are looking for jobs. The proprietary sources is more hit or miss. It's not as reliable that you're gonna get a steady stream. But when you do get somebody, we found them to be better quality. I also forgot to say one other thing too on recruitment. Honestly, one of the biggest sales pitches I have too is being like you in like an owner operated company. And so being able to, a lot of the
Yeah.
companies that I am recruiting against now are actually private equity owned. They've
Yep.
recently been bought out. And actually, that's one of the easiest things for me to sell against because I can say that I'm sitting in the room with you, I'm the decision maker, and we're building this thing versus some person who's in another state you never met.
Yeah.
And that for sure makes people nervous. They see they're not pretty in tune with what goes on in companies. And a lot of the companies that we're recruiting from now, the original founder is gone, who recruited a lot of the technicians, who
Yep.
built a lot of the culture. And so now, yeah, it's getting easier. And that's what
Yeah.
I think is such a tailwind for owner operated home service businesses too, because you
Yeah.
have the tailwinds on demand, people doing less stuff in their home, boomer companies retiring.
Yep.
And then you have technicians looking for a more permanent place. So I think, yeah, the tailwinds on recruitment they just keep getting better, honestly.
That's the same experience we're having. The tailwinds on PE, like I've tweeted about this a little bit. I think it's been absolutely real. So, one, I had no idea what it was like to hire real killers until probably about a year ago, like in the field. And like the questions they ask are fascinating. What they want to know is fascinating. And it's such a different interview experience that like once you go through it, you're like, this person's going to get hired and I'm going to make him a dumbass offer because they want to understand how you drive lead flow, like minutely, because it affects them. They want to understand how opportunities are divvied up. They want to understand the back end of the office. They want to meet the dispatcher because that's the partner in their career. It's a totally different experience.
And that's a very good point too. If you're a commission based employee, your on paper numbers can be whatever someone offers you, but it is the quality and quantity of lead flow that
Yeah,
matters as much or more than what your percentage commission is.
totally. Are you going to feed me? So, yeah, one, the questions are wild. And two, the tailwind of PE coming in, that has easily been one of the easiest recruitment methods for us. So we're getting all these candidates now that are like, they don't want to be in PE. They don't want to deal with it. They're just like, look, man, I've got an HVAC guy recently and he flips millions of dollars of systems a year. To give perspective, average HVAC guy probably flips 200,000. So this is insane. Like this is some baller level. This is recruiting LeBron James, right?
For sure.
We're the largest non-PE backed in Northeast Ohio, potentially Ohio. And me being able to just sit across the room from him and just be like, yeah, that's me, dude. Like we're building together because they all want to build. That's half of
For
what
sure.
everybody says is I'm here to build. I want to do this. And then they bring their friends and they just continue bringing their friends.
That guy
It's been
knows
wild.
other awesome people.
We got him from an awesome person. We got him from a $4 million a year salesperson. So like
Sure.
we got him from a game changer who's, yeah, dude, this place is sick. It is not PE owned. Yeah, we have expectations. Yeah, we're here, but dude, everybody's a killer here. You should do this. It's been wild. Like recruiting is getting easier the more and more we do it, which I think is
And
fun.
what I found too into this idea of just being generous with employees, honestly, like that's one of the things that helps recruiting too. And we've honestly have had a lot of technicians, like our company's been in business for decades. I've had a lot of technicians boomerang back because they see the generosity more and they see a change
Yeah.
in pay and in treatment. And it's actually interesting to me how many people this business has lost over the years that were actually unbelievable that were lost for comparatively like silly reasons.
Silly reasons like pay.
In a lot of cases, I won't speak too much, but just trying to, I don't know, finagle different paying schemes that
Yeah.
maybe weren't to the benefit of the employee, taking hard-line stances on simple matters, being paranoid. Like there's a laundry list of reasons that
Yeah.
if you just have a bigger picture in mind and maybe don't fly off the handle at things, you can, I think, keep a lot of people more. So being generous has tremendously benefited us. And we were able to be generous because we have a long-term orientation. We're not
Yeah.
trying to maximize a day, a month, a year. In a lot of cases, we've been overly generous. So what's been an interesting evolution for us too is reining in the expectations and culture of some of our employees who, when we were smaller a year ago, 6 months ago, we let more things slide. And we actually did it with the idea
Yeah.
that we wanted to build enough scale to where we can hold our ground more. It was actually like maybe funny or sad in some ways. Like we had some employees who left our business in the last 2 months who had been there for a while and they were not good cultural fits. And they left because we started holding them to very basic expectations. And some of them made a comment that I guess I kind of love, but it's sad. He said, wow, you would never have held this 3 months ago, but now you're doing it because the power dynamics have shifted from me to you.
Yeah.
And I thought
Yeah.
that was fascinating because it's something that as an office and management team, we talked about a lot. Like we'd eaten a lot of punches
Yeah.
for 9 months. And so now, like, we know that we pay people a lot. We know that we treat them well. We know that we're overly fair. And so
Hmm.
with that come what our basic expectations, and we're holding people to them more. Like you need to write good job summaries. You need to take pictures. You need to set up
Yeah.
the person who is going to install your work. So they
Yeah.
seem basic on the surface. You need to be in uniform, but you'd be surprised. Even some basic things sometimes can be hard. We have a little bit of a
Yeah.
cultural shift too with some legacy employees. And I think obviously everyone who runs a home service business runs into this. Being a field based company with so many jobs going on, it's so hard to monitor what people are doing.
Hmm.
And what we found is like we need to have office positions that are just monitoring jobs, job by job, to be able to enforce any sort of standards. It's very hard to manage a business with a field employees like this.
Yeah. I just want to touch on your comment on the power dynamics. Like we've basically experienced the same. I don't think that we've gotten that like aware of a comment, but everyone is aware of it because at this point, so we're interviewing 30 to 35 people a week. It is a lot, and I'm personally doing it. It's quite a bit. So we're interviewing a lot of people. Every week, every Monday, we start 3 to 5 new employees.
Wow.
These are not slouches. These are killers. These are best in market team members. And we are constantly upping what our top 10% team members are every Monday. So it has shifted. And it's the same thing. And I did a tweet a couple weeks ago about how hard it was to hold employees accountable if you don't have a strong recruitment arm. Like if you
It's
can't recruit,
impossible.
you can't hold people accountable.
I think it's an unbelievable point. I agree
Yeah.
2000%. Because if
It
you're facing
it
losing
shifted.
quarter of your sales or half your sales from somebody, like they have you in a bind.
Yes. And I think the recruitment strength is there. Now, what I wonder is how much of this was me or how much of this was you versus how much of this was like timing, right? If we had designed our process, which now over the past 6 months has become like a very real hiring, let's close, like it's a sales process now to hire the 10 steps, right? And how would that have worked 2 years ago? And would it have worked? And will it work again in 2 years? Like, I know it would have been successful, but would it have been this successful? Because a lot of the reason this is working in my mind is PE. Like, PE is making this a lot easier because people do not want to work there and they're probably turned off to PE for the rest of their life unless they have a choice, like no choice. So I don't know. What do you think?
It's a very interesting point. I wasn't in this game before. It's hard to say, but I think maybe not as successful. There's a lot of companies we recruit from that in any cycle time just don't treat their employees as well as we do from a pay, culture, or whatever. And we would get those employees no matter what. Like I have
Yeah.
employees that come here whose pay is 50% more immediately,
Yeah.
because that's the value they were driving. So that wouldn't have changed. There are companies that we have recruited from recently very successfully who I do not think we would have gotten these people 2 years ago when the founder was involved. Because
Yeah.
I think it was a much stronger. There are a couple companies in this market that I'm in that were actually very good companies,
Yeah.
that are now like falling apart at the seams. And I don't think we would have gotten, I don't think I would have recruited away from their founder.
Yeah. There was a Twitter discussion like 2 months ago, I wanna say, and it was Rich Jordan was making a comment really similar to this because he has a company that was bought by one of the big consolidators that's just absolutely exploding right now, blowing up at the seams. And the company went from 45 people to 10 in 6 months. There was a comment in there that was funny, and it was probably some ex-PE guy or current PE guy, but he's like, "No, that's strategic." And I'm like, "It is in no one's strategy to burn $50 million with some gasoline." And I'm thinking about that because the current company that's easiest for us to recruit from was this three-way acquisition up in Cleveland that is blowing up. And I mentioned this to someone the other day, and they're like, "No, that's a part of the strategy." I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. This is not a part of the strategy. This guy just ignited $100 million. Like, they're not excited about this. This isn't, like, oh, yeah, we're doing good. No, they went from 80 techs to 7 in a
That's
year.
insane.
This isn't like working. It's absolutely crazy. And
And what do you think for them has caused, what caused the unraveling?
I think integration's hard. We've messed up integration before on like how do you first introduce what are the promises that you make or whatever. And once you go through that like first 3 months of like people getting used to a new owner, like whatever you do in those first 3 months is held up to a microscope for the end of time. And what happened here was I think they said things that I don't know if they meant as promises. I think they were just like, I don't think they're bad people. I just think they probably never worked with a field team before.
Mhm.
So they said things and then like they had to change how that landed. And people took that as a retractment on their word. And there's just no recovering. Like you had barely any trust because you're the brand new owner. Like you don't walk in with, oh yeah, like this guy's totally gonna do it. So you have barely any trust. And if you go in and you botch the little bit of trust you do have, like there's no returning
I'd be
from
curious
that.
where their lead volume
Oh no,
was
lead
was
volume
during that
is
time.
yeah, no, it's through the tank. They can't do anything.
That's an interesting point that I don't really have an answer for, but I've observed this in our market.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, some of these PE roll-ups have bought several companies at once.
Yep.
They put them together. For some reason, also their lead volume has been tanking. Like
Yes.
there are companies that are 5 times, that are like 3 times larger than me right now that have as many leads as I do with 3 times the amount of people.
Yeah.
And people are saying they're pulling back on marketing. They're,
Yep.
instead of focusing on plumbing, they're focusing on a different trade. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
So
Oh
on
my
top of
gosh.
this,
I heard one today. I was meeting with a wholesaler and he was like, "Yeah, I just sat down with all these dealers, companies. Just sat down with all these dealers and they're all launching electrical because they can't do this and this." And I'm like, "This is hilarious. Thank you for telling me who to recruit from because
right,
they
right.
apparently don't know how to drive leads in their core competency."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what makes people skittish first. I think it's a death spiral. Like your leads start going down. On top of that, maybe you botched an integration, you broke a promise.
Yep.
So then they just keep getting angrier and then they view it as a burning ship.
Yeah. And like in all it takes is losing like a key salesperson. And you're going to lose a key salesperson if you can't feed them, if you don't have leads. And
100%.
that's what seems to consistently be happening with all of these companies is they piss off the lead sales guy. They probably change the commission structure, forgetting who sells,
Mhm.
like who's actually providing 30% of their revenue.
Mm.
So they tick him off. Everybody wants to work with that guy because that guy has single-handedly kept them fed for the past 5 years.
Mhm.
So they all chase him and it makes sense. And yeah, I don't know why they don't know how to drive leads. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's like less skin in the game.
I don't know
I
if
don't know.
they're being cheaper on marketing, if their marketing dollars are like being diverted across more things now. I don't have
We
an
would
answer for it.
yeah, so what I'm seeing in our competitors because most of our competitors, their lead flow is way down. And what I'm seeing is they really just aren't playing the game. It's not like complicated. It's not rocket science, right? They're like not using Google.
When your leads are cut in half, that's where there's something weird going on. Everyone always wants more leads, but when your leads are declining at that rate,
The leads are at the company I'm thinking of, they've declined well past half. But
that's
what I
yeah.
wonder is I met somebody that bought a business. It was B2C, but it wasn't HVAC or plumbing. And the business tanked. It went downhill. A part of the reason that they bought it was they perceived the business to be recurring. And I wonder if that's what's happening with HVAC. And it was a PE shop that bought it, somebody that knows nothing about this trade. And they were just like, oh, it's recurring. I will always get this revenue. That is how that works. And like when they told me that, I was like, are you like an freaking idiot? I don't even understand how you got that thought in your brain. But I wonder if that is a part of the problem with HVAC is they bought these highly seasonal. I am seeing it a lot in plumbing, but I'm seeing this most in HVAC and electric, where like they bought these businesses and they thought that it was recurring because they had a membership of some type. And they thought that meant they didn't have to market. And that was it.
They got too cute with that. And then they found, or they bought businesses that were peaking and they were seasonal and they put a few of them together and they stopped
Yeah.
marketing a little bit. And all of a sudden,
Yeah. We're seeing bleeding from everybody. But three trade shot, like anything with a heavy HVAC presence is having a tough time. But we're seeing it across all three of their trades. And I'm still not even sure why.
well, one of the biggest companies now that we're recruiting from that again was in these historically strong companies is predominantly a plumbing company and their leads are way down. If you look at their Google reviews, like they're a 3 times bigger business than us and they have less leads. We're hearing from their employees, they have less leads than we do on a given day. And
That's wild.
it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this recruitment conversation. I think next we just talk about leads because I want to dive a little bit deeper into this, how you're thinking about it. Because I think that like the way you're thinking about it, and I don't want to give myself too much credit, but slightly the way I'm thinking about it, I think there's a reason that we're winning and that we're growing. And some of it is easy stuff and some of it is out of the box.
I think you're having even more success at this than me right now. And I'm not going to give away like too much about it. I don't think you will either because it's not a good idea to talk about publicly.
All my competitors follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like
So
they actually do. What's up, guys? Thanks for the technicians I just got.
yeah. And there's stuff that you just don't want to have be exploited that you're doing. But what I
Yeah.
will say is, I think in general, again, like plumbing, HVAC, these are some of the oldest, largest industries in America. The average operator doesn't do any digital marketing or does limited. A
Yeah.
step up from that maybe is having an agency and playing like a game that an agency has, which maybe does a certain amount of SEO or Google stuff for you.
Yeah.
And then I think if you go beyond that, and again, if everything is rooted in like believing that you're actually a marketing company, like I do not believe that I'm a plumbing company. I believe I'm a marketing company. And
Yeah.
so if you root yourself in that, and then you look at what other direct consumer marketing companies do from an SEO standpoint, from a Google standpoint, and you get a little bit out of the box, I think there's some big things you can do. And I don't even think I think we're at inning 0. I think you're at inning like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Like you've surpassed us
Yeah.
in some of the things you've done. And we are now starting to do some of those things also. And so I think if you get out of the box on the digital space and you try to own digital real estate, which is where you show up in search rankings
Yep.
and where you show up in Google, like owning that and being creative around that and looking how other industries have approached maybe like similar topics.
Yeah.
I think that you could drive a lot of leads. And like we've had a bunch of wasted marketing spend, stuff that we haven't figured out. Like I've spent 20% of my marketing budget the last 3 or 4 months on direct mail that's largely flopped because I don't think we did it. It's hard. I don't think we did it perfectly. And so figuring out what works, rehoning in. Now we're
Yeah.
doubling down on Google and SEO, which doesn't sound that genius because like everyone is doing Google and SEO. But I think the deeper and deeper you go into
Yeah. There's a way to do it. There's a new way to do it. Thanks for coming on today talking about recruitment. This was awesome. And I appreciate you just sharing in general. We've reshaped our recruitment process with some help and some inspiration from you. I'm grateful for you sharing.
I'm grateful for all the stuff I've learned from you, which has exceeded, I think, what I've given you.
All right. Sweet. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Isaac, if they want to follow along with what you're doing, where can they find you?
You could find me on Twitter, Aizik Zimerman, Isaac spelled Aizik. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not that active on social media, to be honest with you. I'm
All right.
very heads down building, but feel free to DM me.
Feel free. All right. Well, thanks for coming on today. Tune in for the next episode with Isaac, where we're going to deep dive into marketing. Thanks for tuning in to Owned and Operated, the podcast for home service entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out. You can find me on Twitter at @WilsonCompanies. I'll see you next time.